In Boulder County, this area has been mined since the late 1800s until the mid-1900s, predominantly for gold and silver. You also see other minerals like tungsten and feldspar, even some uranium. The 4 Mile Canyon Fire started in 2010, and it burned over 6,200 acres and destroyed approximately 162 homes. It was pretty devastating to the area. And then 3 years later, there was a flood that occurred, which was pretty catastrophic. The hazards that were revealed were actually a lot of the mines that were previously hidden by vegetation and trees and grasses.
Our program, the Inactive Mine Reclamation Program, is responsible for protecting the public from the dangers associated with legacy mining or abandoned mining. We safeguard hazardous features, and those hazardous features can include open shafts, open adits, vertical features, really any dangerous feature associated with past mining activity. The Lee Hill project is one of the last projects in an area that we've been focused on following the 4 Mile burn. And so following that fire, we've been focused on addressing blocks of kind of these areas in which we had hazardous mine features.
Within this area, it's actually owned by many entities. We have private owners. We have property managed by the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, as well as property owned by Boulder County Open Space. And there's actually a little bit also a Forest Service. So we have a lot of different entities and a lot of great partners that help us secure these closures and make them safe.
In the late 70s, this came on the market, and we decided to buy it, and it apparently had been sold by the descendants of the original miner. As a landowner, this has been an ongoing concern for decades of these mine openings. You know, we've done what was required by our insurance to have them fenced, signs, and then the property itself fenced as private and posted. That doesn't necessarily make us totally safe from children or young people wandering around, exploring, and somebody getting hurt, which would be a huge, huge tragedy to have happen. And it's a big, big relief to know that this will go away. That worry will go away.
Under the Lee Hill project, we actually have 25 adits, which are tunnels, kind of like this one right here, and 28 shafts. So it's a fairly good-sized project. And in this site in particular, we had it assessed for good bat habitat, and there's water coming out of it with bugs. So what we're going to do here is put on a grate that allows bats to freely go in and out, but keep people out. So that's our way of safeguarding this mine. Over the last 9 years since the fire, we've had 8 separate projects that closed over 360 hazardous mines, which is a total of over $1 million worth of work.
Boulder County acquired the Mud Lake property kind of in a series of purchases between 1999 and 2001. At that time, it had a long history of mining, primarily tungsten. Shortly thereafter, we went through a management process, and one of the outcomes of that was to open it up for access for public recreation. And at the time, it was a maze of mining roads and social trails and trash dumps. I think we identified 13 mines on the property that fell under kind of a severe public safety hazard that we needed to close. In 2004, we worked with DRMS to do that. Some of them were just backfilled with material on site. Other ones had such a deep cavity that there wasn't the material available to put in there. And in those instances, we have one case where they put some concrete blocks across the top of the opening.
I think we've all recognized that partnerships have to be a huge part of the work that we do. When you consider the magnitude of the problem with respect to abandoned mine lands throughout the state, I mean, with in excess of potentially 23,000 sites, there's no single agency or entity that has enough funding to address all those issues. One of our big partners is the federal government, so lands that the Forest Service manages and BLM manages have significant number of mine sites on them. And so we've partnered with them not only with respect to funding, but also other resources, personnel, allowing them to help us develop some projects. We've also partnered with local municipalities like Boulder County, cities, to try and utilize their limited funding sources and combine that with our funding source to actually get accomplished a lot more work than we would otherwise. We also partner with private entities. We've partnered with Freeport-McMoRan and Newmont to address mining issues on properties that they manage and on properties that they don't manage. So I think we recognize the problem's significant enough that it's not going to be addressed or accomplished by any one entity. So we all have to pool our resources to accomplish much more than we would as individual agencies or entities.
The benefits to the partnership between the BLM and DRMS when closing these abandoned mine land features, it's basically efficiency and cost savings for the public. The two of us, the state and the federal government, both have these responsibilities to help keep our public land safe and private land safe. So in areas where the land ownership is really kind of messy, where you have a lot of BLM land that's completely surrounded by private land, BLM and the state need to work together to get into these areas for access. Also, it saves the public because we aren't both in the same area doing the same project. So it's a lot more efficient with the state coming in, working on the land.
The division's been safeguarding abandoned mines since about 1980. And at the time, we estimated there were over 23,000 abandoned mines. And to date, we've closed about 10,500 with about, safeguarding 250 to 300 per year. And certainly our work is not done. We have estimated there's probably quite a bit more, and we're certainly discovering more with technology such as LiDAR to find some of these mines that are further and further away from roads and other areas. And the benefit is, keeping the public safe and pets and wildlife. A lot of these are very dangerous openings, and over the years, many people and animals have actually been hurt or killed. And so safeguarding these is just a really important thing to do to protect the health and safety of people recreating as well as landowners and pets and wildlife.